need to make sure that we get a good margin on whatever we are selling. So the cost of goods sold are at a point where it is spitting out a gross margin. Then we need to make sure that we have efficient operations, not too light, not too heavy, just right for where we are in our life cycle in our business. That spits out a profit. Vision of success is, let's say I want to quadruple my enterprise value. That will be a question of, so how are we going to grow the revenue? What are we going to sell on the products and services that matter? Who are we going to sell it to? So on our key customers. How are we going to get to market? So what are our channels like? What's our geographic scope? Who are the suppliers we're going to deal with to get the best products at the best price point to secure the margins?
What should business owners be looking at into growing their enterprise value?
In a very simplistic term, it's actually all about...
Neeraj, thank you so much for joining me on The Bottom Line.
My pleasure, Sivan. Nice to be here.
Excellent. So we've known each other for a little while, which is exciting. So it's always fun as a host to interview someone you know a little bit about. But our listeners out there that don't know you, who is Neeraj?
Well, Neeraj is a management consultant. I have been doing this kind of advisory work for about 29 years. Started my career a long time ago with a company called Deloitte. And I've worked with several of the big four consulting firms like PricewaterhouseCoopers, IBM Consulting, KPMG, etc. I started my career with a computer science degree. So I've got an engineering background with an MBA by way of qualifications. Yeah, that's me.
Neeraj, management consulting. For those that don't know, what does that actually mean?
It's essentially helping business owners and their management teams to achieve success in the businesses that they're running. So the question is, what does success look like? For pretty much every organization out there, success is about improving their financial performance and creating more enterprise value. So management consulting is basically supporting those executives and those owners of those businesses achieve those outcomes with structured help that's needed along the way.
So you've worked at some of these larger firms, IBM Consulting and so on. So in the bigger corporates, listed companies, do they go out and seek management consulting firms to improve their business? It just seems weird to me as an accountant that practice in SMEs. Our SME clients would love to have management consulting around them to support them. And we'll talk about how we're going to do that here. But what's the capability missing at those larger firms that they're getting these management consultants? Take us through that journey of what you've been involved in and what projects that you've done over this journey where these large companies are getting involved with Deloitte and IBM and so on to help them. Why do they need the help and what have you done?
It covers a lot of different disciplines in a business. So if you look at a business, if you start with the top end, it's around having clarity of purpose. So what is the vision of success? All the way down to where are we going to play as a business in terms of markets, customers, products and services, channels to market, suppliers. So that's at the top end in terms of where to play and who to work with and what markets to go conquer.
Yeah.
But then operationally, how are we going to execute this? So have we got the right people? Have we got the right culture? Have we got the right organization structure? Have we got governance in place? Do we have the right management team for various functional disciplines to support the CEO and the board to execute the tasks that are required to move the business forward? Do we have the right business processes? Have we got the right technology? Are we leveraging data the right way? Because there's a lot of data out there, but are we harnessing the data to our advantage? Have we got the right facilities and the right operations? So there's a lot of different levers to pull. And depending on what a business is trying to achieve, no matter what size they are, whether they are a SME or whether they are a multi-billion-dollar enterprise, you'll be surprised that the systemic issues they all face are the same. There's just a question of a few extra zeros added to the revenue line. That's pretty much it. They all have the same challenges across those levers of change or levers of business. And sometimes they might have gaps in the way they are approaching some of these levers. For example, there might be an issue at the business process level, that the process may be inefficient and it can be improved with better use of technology. Now, a big business or a small business, they all have the same challenge. So depending on the pain point a client has, they bring in consultants to actually address that pain point with some solutions.
You talked about enterprise value briefly then, and one of the things that I see in our SME clients is clients trying to chase top line revenue, and revenue growth and sales and money in the bank is super important to small business. That doesn't always result in enterprise value growth. How does enterprise value get calculated? How do we grow that? What should business owners be looking at into growing their enterprise value?
Yeah, very good question, Sivan. So, in a very simplistic term, it's actually all about the profitability of a business. Profitability in dollar terms and also as a percentage of top line. If we can achieve higher profits, what typically happens is that that profit gets multiplied by a number that is unique to each industry. That gives you your enterprise value.
Which is the valuation of the
the
business,
valuation,
what they could sell it for.
what they could sell it for, and in case there was an exit at some stage or there was a succession to another owner, they can then sort of crystallize that value by way of a payday. So that's in a nutshell. It's really very closely tied to profitability of a business, and it's actually a dollar amount, because not the percentage of profit that is important, but the dollar amount, because that's what gives you the payout or the enterprise value. Then the question is, very linked to that, is how do we drive the profitability of a business? At a very simple level, it's pretty much you're looking at the revenue line. So we need to grow the top line. We need to make sure that we get a good margin on whatever we are selling. So the cost of goods sold are at a point where it is spitting out a gross margin. Then we need to make sure that we have efficient operations, not too light, not too heavy, just right.
Yeah.
For where we are in our life cycle in a business. And then that spits out a profit. So it's, focus on the revenue line, focus on the margin line, make sure your cost of doing business is optimized, and it will produce a profit. Then the simple question is, how do we grow the profit? Which will then translate into enterprise value.
Amazing. So when you step into a business and you're being called upon to assist in growing enterprise value, what are the things that you do? Take us through your journey of consulting. How do you take an owner of a business through that workshop or the process you run to unpack some of these things for you to be able to help them?
I'll give you the context from a SME perspective. So I deal with a lot of entrepreneurs and people who have a great product or a great solution that they're taking to market. They're not short of ideas. Where it sort of becomes a bit of a stumbling block for them is the being able to scale the business to actually meet the market opportunity. So what we typically do is we start with creating a vision of what that success looks like. And often when you are in the business and you are the owner, you're wearing multiple hats, you get basically lost in the detail of the business a lot. What the process that I engage in is that we start with, let's take a 30,000 foot view and look at the forward-looking view at least 5 years out. Where do you want to be in 5 years? What does success look like to you? Start with that very important question. Once you have that crystal clear, which is what I call vision of success, and it needs to be measurable. Okay, so in order to get there, what levers we are going to pull to get us to that end result that you're after in 5 years' time.
And is a vision of success an enterprise value at the end? It's a net profit value. Could vision of success be, Neeraj, I'm really tired. I want to, vision success for me is to make X dollars, but really it's about me stepping into more of a chairman's role where I'm not in the business and I've got a full corporate style setup. Is that a type of questions or answers you get from clients? Is that what vision of the types of visions of success?
Vision of success for the owner in terms of his personal or her personal objectives, but it's also vision of success in terms of the enterprise.
Yeah.
So you need to tackle both those questions. So for example, I've had many clients where the next generation is coming in to the business and the father or the mother is saying, I need the next generation to take this business to the next level. So then the question is around succession, but also giving the next generation an opportunity to stretch what they are inheriting from the parents and take it to another level. Don't be just lazy with what you've inherited, but actually push the envelope to take it to, got a great platform, take it to the next level. Now, in order to do that, that's where you do the stretch thinking with them. And the vision of success for the parents is that the next generation is stepping in, and taking the business to the next level. The vision of success for the new generation is that they got a growth objective that they're going to work towards over the next 5 years. And then eventually, everybody's going to win. Both the new generation and the old generation are going to win because they'll crystallize down the track an event that'll give them some cash.
Amazing. So, vision of success, it's defined. You're now engaged. You know what it is. What do we do? What's sort of the journey thereafter?
The goal is the first part of the first discussion. The second part of the discussion is where will we play to actually get the top line and the margin secured. So essentially, vision of success is, let's say I want to quadruple my enterprise value. That will be a question of, so how are we going to grow the revenue? That is all around, what are we going to sell? Let's make sure that we focus on the products and services that matter. Who are we going to sell it to? Let's make sure we focus on our key customers. How are we going to get to market? So what are our channels like? What's our geographic scope? Who are the suppliers we're going to deal with to get the best products at the best price points to secure the margins? So they are the kind of questions you'd ask next where you want to play. Then the next set of questions is around how you're going to execute. So where will we play and what levers are we going to pull to actually execute? What are the enablers? And the enablers, the most important enabler to me, from my experience, is people. Have we surrounded ourselves with the right talent? Have we got the right domain experts helping us out for various functions in the business? Have we got the right processes? Or have we got manual processes? So if we grow, we're going to replicate all the problems 4 times. Are we using things like artificial intelligence, automation, those kind of capabilities to actually ensure our processes are efficient? Have we got the right use of technology? I often find businesses where they have got multitude of systems that don't talk to each other, which then means keying in of that information into multiple systems. It creates inefficiencies in the business processes. So you look at that. Then look at how are we harnessing the data. Do we know the 80-20 rule on our customers? Which 20% of our customers are giving us 80% of the value? Which 20% of our products are giving us 80% of our profit and also 80% of our revenue? That kind of analysis, what I call harnessing the data, is critical so that you can apply your limited resources to the bits of the business that matter. If you do all that, obviously then you can start getting on the journey. So the first phase of the discussion is around evaluating all that and coming up with some improvements in each of those areas and then defining a plan.
Now that was very comprehensive to understand that. But let's dive into sort of some of the key things that you see. So we've got a lot of business owners that listen to this podcast. What are the key things that you see that you talk to clients and you talk to business owners, the common things that a lot of them get wrong?
The biggest challenges for SME business owners and entrepreneurs is that they have the idea around the product or the service that they're selling. They are very good at that because that's how they've created a niche. They've created a business around that idea. So they invest in the product and they invest in the service. But they don't put the same level of investment in the actual people and the processes and the systems that are required to scale the business. So one of the biggest stumbling blocks I've seen is that they have the idea, but then they have a dozen other ideas and they get sidetracked into chasing different ideas and they lose sight of the big picture in terms of what is the main idea that they want to build off and then how they're going to execute that idea with discipline. So they are the areas. But the other area linked to that is around good discipline around financial management. So financial management is that, as they are growing, they are having to invest back in the business. They're having to sort of put their money where their mouth is. They need to stay focused on the top line all the time, but they also need to make sure that there are efficiencies in the business so that top line translates into bottom line. It's quite important that we just don't chase the top line without focusing on the operational layer, because without profit, there's no point having revenue. So they are the kind of things, getting that discipline around managing cash flow, making sure that they don't stress themselves too much with too many loans too early, because then the cost of servicing the loans can lumber the business down. Make sure they stay focused and not get distracted with too many ideas and stay to the core of why they are in business.
I really like that you mentioned that understanding finance and the P&L and the financials. We do a bit of M&A work here, and we see businesses come to us externally from the accounting firm, and they say, "Oh, we want to sell the business, so we're ready to go to market." And you look at their P&L and balance sheet, and they don't, measure inventory correctly. They don't do proper accrual accounting. A lot of the times, the owner doesn't understand the P&L and doesn't understand the profit they're making. And we go to market, or we don't go necessarily go to market in that scenario, but if you go to market like that with really poor data, it makes it really hard to sell a business. So it is a key drive, not a key driver, but it is something that we encourage our clients to take a deep interest in their financials. Not all owners have that finance accounting background. In my world, I do see a lot of these clients that are good at what they do, but they're just not good at managing the P&L. So it is something you've identified, and I think you need to have good people around you to support you in that journey. But I think owners need to put effort into learning that world.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad you brought up that particular scenario, because at the end of the day, you will sell the business successfully at the enterprise value that you want, the actual transaction amount that you want for your business, only if you actually can demonstrate sustainable earnings over multiple years. You need to show a track record. You can't pull the numbers out of nowhere in the last year and expect to sell. So it's very important to have that journey shown around how you're heading in the right direction, and you're consistently delivering the profits. You can't have too many blip years, because that is held against the business performance. It's quite important to not rush into selling, because I believe exit readiness is a very important phase. So optimize the time at which you transact. Create that tsunami of opportunity for your business. Get it to a sweet spot where the EBITDA, the profit is optimized, where upside can be demonstrated, that there's a roadmap to further growth. So whoever buys can pay top dollar, but there's enough money left on the table for them to then capitalize on. All of that has to be mapped out and needs to be succinctly communicated back to the suitor or the buyer of the business. It's an art and a science.
Can you take us through an example of a client you've worked on where your involvement genuinely increased enterprise value in a very quick or a short period of time, or it could have been a long period of time? I'd love to take us through a case study that you've been involved in, and just to get a feel for you in the inner sanctum of a project and how that played out.
Yeah, sure. So this was actually a shopping center operator, quite a large shopping center. So this is from the large end of town, in an overseas location, in an ASEAN country. I take great pride in that particular engagement, because they had a requirement to consistently grow their business on an annualized basis by about 25%. Or starting off a very large base, they were one of the largest shopping center operators, developers and operators in their country. Now, they had that vision clearly agreed, but they needed to scale the business, because they couldn't just replicate what they were doing and basically double the business every 4 years at 25% growth per annum, without actually focusing on developing the people, getting the structure right, getting the processes documented in an efficient way, focusing on technology. So I was involved in an engagement over a couple of years with them to help them on that journey, and I take great pride that they actually smashed their growth objectives. They actually went beyond their growth objectives.
Wow. And when you got involved in that project, did you follow the same principles, vision of success, people, operations, where we play? Is it a fair chunk of that?
It's very much the same principles. It's basically saying, okay, we have an objective to grow at that breakneck pace. They have the market opportunity. That's what they claim to fame, is that they know the market. They know where to open the next shopping center, etc. But this was all about actually sweating the assets to deliver net operating incomes out of those assets. So they had X number of shopping centers. While they were adding more shopping centers, we took them on a journey on how to optimize the performance of the existing shopping centers, so they were generating more income, because that is critical to then replicate the success.
Yeah. Can I ask you, in that scenario, I'm visualizing that company, there'd be a seasoned CEO on lots of money, CFOs, COOs, executives all over the shop. why can't business owners, whether it's small or large, come up with these things themselves? Why do we need a management consultant from IBM Consulting or Deloitte or wherever they come from to go into these places where there are very highly paid executives that are meant to drive these cultures? Is it the outsider looking in and facilitating the conversation? Is that what it is? Why does a company like that need you, and why can't they do it themselves?
They don't need us for the market opportunity. They know they are the kings of their land. They know where they're taking their business. In that particular instance, where they needed the help was an external pair of expert eyes with some industry knowledge of that, which was quite important to bring in shopping center domain industry in that case. So initially, the engagement started off as let's benchmark what we do compared to what best practice looks like,
Gotcha.
so we can learn from where we are falling behind on those benchmarks. So it started off initially as a benchmarking discussion around, we are here, we are doing certain things, we have been set in our way for the last 30 odd years. Is that optimal, or is there a better way of doing things? How do we compare to some of the leading shopping center providers internationally? Yeah. So that benchmarking study then highlighted where the gaps were, which then led them to believe that they had to improve what they were doing to actually even deliver better enterprise value at the end of the day.
Yeah. I genuinely believe SME operators and owners need to have coaches, mentors, need consultants to help them do this. And I feel like a lot of the SMEs don't know where to go and feel like sometimes these are very expensive consultants to tap into. So I want to probably not necessarily pause, but tell our audience that what we're doing at Alexander Spencer. So, Neeraj, you've beautifully explained some of these strategies that you use to help businesses increase enterprise value. But we're very lucky to have you on board at Alexander Spencer. You helped us put together some strategic plans. You helped us put together what our vision of success was. And during that process, we got to meet you prior to that via Active Directions, who's someone that I've known quite well. And now we're embarking on a journey where we're going to hopefully take this to our client base and to SME world. And we're very fortunate for you to be joining us in that journey. And I want to share with the audience today that we're going to be launching AS Consulting Partners, and you're going to be helping us execute or deliver this kind of thinking to our client base. So right now, I want to say thank you for joining the team, and really excited to partner with you and partner with Active Directions in this journey. Take us through why you're passionate about now SMEs. What are you looking at trying to achieve in AS Consulting Partners, and helping us take this type of thinking to another level and help some of the younger and mature, but where do you see we play in this world?
First of all, thank you, Sivan, for having me. And what started off as a strategy development for the firm has now, progressed to a discussion around basically launching this as a service line within the business. So I very much appreciate the opportunity to work with you, on a more consistent basis from here. What I believe is missing in the SME space is that their problems are the same problems as the big end of town. Whether you're a $1 billion enterprise or you're a $5 million business or a $2 million business, your challenges are the same. The systemic issues are the same. It's around the same levers: markets, customers, products, channels, services, people, structure, processes, systems. Nothing changes. Everything is consistently the same problems. Yes, there might be a couple of extra zeros added to the revenue line, but that is immaterial. But the issue is that in the SME space, they can't get access to the advice of this level because the consultants, the top tier consultants, are busy with the top tier clients. So I believe there's an untapped potential here to actually focus on the SME space and work on the trusted relationship that you already have as their accountant, because you have access to all their historical performance. You have access to last 5 years of history. How's revenue tracking? How's margin tracking? How are cost tracking? How's their profitability? What taxes are they paying? What are the ambitions are of the founders? You know a lot about them. And what I'd like to be able to do is to give them the forward-looking partnership as well. So Yes, we are good at keeping your taxes and keeping you compliant, make sure you pay the taxes on time, the right quantities, but we are also going to help you with your forward-looking 5-year journey. What does success look like in the next 5 years? How we can actually get you closer to that. And it's not just going to be, we have developed the strategy and you're on your own. What we'd like to work with them on is basically we'll strategize for 5 years. We will plan for 12 months. We will budget. We'll do the budgeting for 12 months. And then on a monthly basis, we will provide exceptional management reports that they can run their business on, or your clients can run their business on, and forecasting reports. So what you do is you create a 5-year framework of what success looks like and how to get there. You go really deep with project plans on what the next 12 months look like. You bake that into a budget, and then you make sure that you're tracking against that on a monthly basis. And that's the methodology that's going to be so helpful to the founders to actually achieve the desired outcomes that they're after.
The SME market, you're right, is struggling to tap into this talent of management consultants. And I feel like not a lot of my clients have engaged in this type of consultants, but they're kind of out there and they're trying to tap into the SMEs. They call themselves business coaches. And I cringe when I say that because a lot of these business coaches half the time have never run a business or have a really poor business themselves, and they're trying to tell other people what to do. I'm not saying all business coaches are bad, mind you, but I feel like the SME sector is really craving for this. So we've obviously launched this. This is what we're trying to do with your expertise in AS Consulting Partners. Take us through the journey of sort of the first session, roughly what the costs are to engage with Neeraj at AS Consulting Partners so that our clients in the SME world get a feel for what it might look like getting this top end of town talent inside their business and try to unpack and have those conversations. So what are the costs and what are sort of the frameworks that you kind of take them through?
Yeah, cool. What I'll do is I'll actually start by talking about that business coaching side as well. Yeah. So I've got there are some good coaches out there. This is not a consulting versus coaching. The coaches have a role to play. The role is at how can I help you one day, like a couple of hours a month type of a role in terms of steering the CEO and helping them sort of grow into that role or coach them into that role. Given all the levers that need to be pulled, you need expertise across multiple areas that need to be brought into the conversation. And the execution, there's a lot of moving parts to execution. And that's where we come in, is that we'd love to work with the coaches. They can do what they're doing around management development, etc. But we'd like to sort of be the next layer down from there and in helping execute all the different projects that need to be executed to actually deliver the results. And so it's not us versus them. We can work with them, but we bring in a different level of value to that conversation. In terms of the way the clients can engage with us is that we initially start with very small engagement because we understand that SME clients, and I understand a lot of your clients in that 2 million to say 10 million revenue range. What they can't afford is a consultant that comes in with a team of 10 people trying to do something over 3 months. It does not work. It will never work. So what we try to do is we try to sort of engage in a couple of days of workshopping to begin with, which really is we look at the strategic levers and we come up with basically a clear articulation of what vision of success looks like and what are the levers we need to pull to actually go after that vision. And operationally, how are we prepared to go after it? And we produce a nice succinct report at the end of that couple of days that gives them a very good indication of how to go about things. So that initial engagement, we are able to deliver for about $7,000 to $7,500. Beyond that, we give them the tools to actually execute. But if they need help on an ongoing basis, we can discuss that, and then we can sort of engage with them on that, like specific needs that they might have beyond that.
One of the things that I was really excited by, Neeraj, when you sort of did this for us, where you put together the vision of success and we spent some time together mapping out what it looks like for Alexander Spencer. What I really enjoyed was a session around where we came out and did a SWOT analysis and we did strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And we've done that a few times in the practice, and it's always thrown out different type of strengths and opportunities. Off the back of that, we then started to analyze what are we good at, what are we not good at, what are the opportunities, and how can, if something went wrong, what could we do? And we came up with these projects to work on to help us achieve that vision of success. You took us through an awesome journey. Take the listeners, if they want to do a SWOT analysis and then from there use that to kind of dissect a process of how they should think through off the back of a SWOT analysis, can you explain maybe even what Alexander Spencer did and how that little thing of SWOT, which is year 1, year 12 management consulting type of management, training you get at university, a basic tool, and how powerful it was and how that turned into projects?
Again, it's very important to keep things simple and not use too many four-letter acronyms, although SWOT is a four-letter acronym.
It is. Yeah.
Essentially, it's a very simple diagram. It's got 4 quadrants to it, and we start with strengths because, give a pat on the back to the business owner about the things that are actually pretty solid about the business. But that's good to know. The real focus needs to be on what are our weaknesses, because the weaknesses is what we need to address. What are our opportunities, because they are the ones we need to capitalize on. And threats in terms of anything that can make this undone, and if there's ways to counter some of the threats. So it's really, what happens is that a lot of the businesses dwell on what they're good at, but they very seldom look at the mirror and say, I'm bad at that, I need to do something about that. And that's what that matrix is designed to do, is actually really focus on what the mirror is telling you that you need to improve around the weaknesses and the threats, but also, are we ready to capitalize on the opportunities that are presented? So don't just rely on the strengths, focus on the other 3 aspects of your business to unearth potential for growth.
We talked a lot about strategy, but we're in a world at the moment where technology is really growing at a fast pace, both in AI, all these new software that's available to companies to improve efficiency in technology. What's your thoughts on that, and how do you sort of think through technology when you're engaging with clients?
That's a great question, because I actually started my career as a computer engineer. So I was down at the technology layer. I spent a lot of time at IBM as well, and amazing opportunity to learn about technology stacks and really good foundational skills I developed working there. The focus needs to be, you don't put technology in for the sake of technology. If you put technology before business requirements and business process, like putting the cart before the horse. So my learnings over the years have been, start with the business process problem that you're solving, map out what you want with your business process, and then use technology as an enabler of that, not the other way around. So that's been one of my learnings. But I'll give you an example of that in play. So we had this automotive importer, one of the major brands in the world. They were having some issues integrating with their dealers. So the supply chain went all the way up the food chain to Europe. They had dealer interaction all manual. So the dealers were calling a call center. They had hundreds of people in a call center.
So you're talking about, when you say dealer and motor vehicle, we're talking like in Australia, people going to buy cars from this brand.
Exactly.
Go.
The selling of the car was the easy part, because you go to a dealership to buy it. It's the aftermarket, the 5-year cycle of the car. Once the car has left the dealership, the service, the repairs, the warranty claims, the technical support, all of those things is where a lot of effort is spent, because a lot of different processes come into play. The dealers have to then interact with the original equipment manufacturer importer on various topics, from I need to order some parts that will go in, or some accessories that will go into the service or the repair job. I need to put in a warranty claim because the car is still under warranty. I need some support in the actual workshop. All of those processes.
Were they manual? Did you say they were all call center?
They were basically largely through call center operations at the time when I was engaged. And they also had issues around visibility of the supply chain, because the supply chains were quite extended. So the part could be in a container, it could be on a ship, it could be somewhere on a 3 or 4 month supply chain route. To actually say what's the ETA, because what bugs you or me when we take a car for services, when we don't know what the estimated time to arrival is, when I can get my car fixed or serviced. So The project started off with how can we improve that dealer interface to get dealer loyalty. And in order to achieve that, we basically started with the process. We mapped and analyzed 5 of the key processes that the dealers were engaging in with the importer on a daily basis. We redesigned those business processes with technology in mind, and then we implemented an online capability for them to interact through self-service means. Wow. And basically have paperless processes all the way through to supply chain visibility. All of that was done through technology enablement, but it was the business process that was king. We came up with the 5 redesigned processes, and then we used technology to enable them. And what that did was that essentially they needed only 20% of the people in the call center.
Wow.
Because the 80% of the work could be done by self-service. The dealers could serve them. They were asking questions of a call center because they didn't have access to the information.
How much money would that have saved that particular brand or company?
It was actually about revenue growth.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so part of the business case was around reducing costs, but part of that was actually getting more parts revenue, getting more service revenue. Because they were able to then sell through more parts, more accessories. So yes, there was revenue generation in that, which was contributing to the business case. There was obviously reducing the costs. There was preventing warranty leakage. So if the warranty rules are all built in, you're not going to overpay or underpay warranty. So through automation, you're able to improve that. It was about customer service, customer experience, which means builds the brand loyalty. So we actually developed the business case as well, which was all of those things: revenue increase, reducing costs, improving customer satisfaction, customer loyalty. All of that was quantified, put into basically a 5-year analysis on when will the cost be paid off by, what will be the break-even point, what's the net present value analysis of that. And the business case was actually approved all the way in Europe because it was beyond the Australian CEO's remit to actually approve that business case. So it was, again, another highlight for my career was to actually get involved in that project, actually lead that front-end business architecture work.
That's amazing. One of the things that I see that really lets SME business owners down in terms of their growth path. So what I see a lot of the time is the SME business owner takes the business to a certain level. It can be 2 mil, 10 mil, 5 mil. It doesn't really matter. It gets to a certain point where they then stop growing. And a lot of the times when I see a business owner or a business stop growing or can't unlock growth to another level, is generally what I find is that the business owner is wearing lots of hats, which you mentioned previously. They're stuck in the trenches. They're scared to spend some money to bring in talent to relieve them of themselves of things that they should be focusing on. They're doing more of the lower value work where they should be focusing on strategy and really removing themselves from the day-to-day. Really feel what I've seen in my journey over the last 25 years of doing this is businesses that have matured, not always, but a lot of the time is to do with just that battle between working in the business versus on the business. I'm sure you've seen that. When you see that kind of stuff, how do you get involved and fix that problem? Because there's a fair bit of psychology that needs to be unpacked out of that. How do you deal with that challenge?
The single most important thing we need to do with those owners is to actually paint what success can look like. Like give them the forward-looking view on how they can create more enterprise value and therefore more wealth for themselves and their families. Having that North Star defined quite clearly really helps you in whether it's nighttime or daytime, whether it's cloudy or clear sky. If you have your North Star defined, you can navigate towards that. So the idea there is start with the why. To borrow Simon Sinek's words, always start with the why. Don't spend all your time in the what and the how. If you start with the why I'm coming to work, what is it that what do I want to be famous for in 5 years? Start with the why. What do I want for me and my family in 5 years? Start with that why. If you answer that question, then you, in a very, very structured way, figure out how we're going to get to that. And if you can go through that journey in a very quick fashion, at least figuring out where you want to be and what are the key things you need to do, that is the beginning of the process to freeing yourself up from the day to day. Because thanks to you, we have actually started doing some work with a couple of your clients where 45-year-old owner, delivering quite a profitable business, but actually exhausted to the point where he wants to retire at 45.
Wow. Yeah.
But that client actually has a highly replicable offering. He's only in Victoria. He's only dealing with 3 key customers, and he's already delivering 30% EBITDA on a very healthy, like 8 million revenue. Highly successful business. When I spoke to him about basically what do you want to achieve, he says, I just want to keep the lights on because I want to retire. And we tried to unwrap that issue. And guess what? It was basically I haven't created people I can trust around me. I am the guy who decides everything. I'm the guy who issues every invoice. I'm the guy who invoices sends every purchase order. I'm the guy who makes sure that every widget in the factory is being put to my quality standards. No standard operating procedures, no delegation. There's nobody to delegate to. There's no succession plans. So I am basically wearing 5 hats. Therefore, all I can achieve is 8 million revenue, delivering 30% EBITDA. But my product, I'm highly regarded in what I do. I'm the best at what I do. I've got the technical solutions for this. So I said, well, how replicable is this in other states? He said, very replicable. I said, why don't you go after the rest of the market if you're that good? He said, if I only had the energy. So the process with him has started on, let's create that North Star. You can easily go national with what you got. Let's scale the business. Let's surround you with good talent. Invest some of that profit back into the business. Not just talk about your product and services, but talk about the people, because that is what's going to give you the capital the growth. Invest the capital in the people. So he's now started the journey with us.
Amazing. Neeraj, thank you so much for joining me on the bottom line. You talk about business and helping businesses increase their enterprise value, the North Star, helping them achieve their goals, the vision of success. All these words are here on a daily basis, sitting very close to you. We are very fortunate to have met you through Active Directions, and now together with them, launched AS Consulting Partners. I want to thank you not only for joining me on the bottom line and sharing some of your wisdom, but also being here with us on this journey. You are passionate, and looking forward to working with you for many years.
My pleasure, Savannah. Thank you very much for this fantastic opportunity to work with your clients.